Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Dark Art Society podcast. I'm your host, Chet Czar, and today I interview my friend, Gabe Leonard, friend of the show, Gabe Leonard. It's more of a conversation than an interview. We're just discussing what we thought things would be like having a career as a fine artist, becoming somewhat successful in the field of fine art, and what it ended up actually being like. And it's a pretty interesting conversation. I just feel like I never had any resources like this podcast when I was starting out. And I wish I would have been able to hear more what it's like to have a fine art career. So that's kind of the idea behind this conversation, just talking about the realities of it. It's not, it's not glamorous. That's for damn sure. I'm not complaining. It's great. I wouldn't trade it for my effects job. I love what I do, but it's not glamorous, and it's not really what I thought it was going to be, really. I mean, certain aspects are, but yeah. So anyway, I'll save it. I'll save it for the show. It's a good interview, though. Let's see what's going on with me. I am absolutely exhausted. I am in the midst of painting. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see this painting. I'm painting for my solo show. I'm behind, but the paintings are going fast. Again, I run into the problem of having to juggle the business side of my art and trying to get work done for the show, and so I'm bouncing around a lot. So yeah, it's been a little bit of a struggle. The paintings themselves so far have not been a struggle. They've been really enjoyable to paint. I just wish I could focus on them more, but I have to keep hustling here and there to make ends meet. But that's pretty much it. I'm just running myself ragged. I'm about to hit that point where I'm going to crash. I think you may have heard me mention that before. I usually go and then just crash for a couple days, but hopefully not, because I need to get these damn paintings done. Anyway, if you want to support this podcast, you can at patreon.com/darkartsociety, and you can join for just $1, just $1 a month. It's super cheap, and it really helps out. If you join at the $5 and above level, you get a 20% discount coupon at Skullshop, SKULLSHOPPE.com. And here's a skull. Amazing skulls. I use them all the time, and they sponsor us. So, also, I have one more sponsorship to read, and this is the final sponsorship for the Beautiful Bizarre Art Prize 2024. Let me read this. Okay. If you missed your chance to enter the International Beautiful Bizarre Art Prize 2024, all is not lost. Beautiful Bizarre Magazine have extended the deadline until the end of this month, July 2024. So this is your final chance to enter. The total prize pool has also grown again to over $73,000 in cash and prizes to be won. This is your chance to exhibit alongside 70 plus of the best contemporary artists in the upcoming exhibition at Modern Eden Gallery in San Francisco, curated by Beautiful Bizarre with art direction by Musonium Gallery. Win $10,000 in cash, prizes, advertising packages, and have your work published in Beautiful Bizarre magazine. Entries close on July 31st, 2024, and this will be the final deadline. For more info and to enter, go to www.beautifulbizarre.art. That's www.beautifulbizarre.art. And I recommend, if you're, want to have a chance to win a bunch of money and be in a really cool show and be associated with a really cool magazine, I recommend it, because Beautiful Bizarre are good people and big supporters of the dark art community. That is it. Let's get on with the interview, or the discussion, with Gabe Leonard. Hope you enjoy it. Hello, Gabe.
Hello, Chet.
Friend of the show. The official friend of the show.
I should make a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Friend of the show T-shirt. It would just be like a sphincter.
I'd buy that.
Friend of the show, then that O and show would be a sphincter.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Oh man,
Be part of my new burgeoning T-shirt line where I make T-shirts for myself and nobody.
nobody buys them because you don't
No, I
promote
buy
them. Yeah, you buy them.
No, I mean, I buy. They're like all for me, and I don't. No, I don't promote them. I've got one that just says no on it.
That's excellent. You probably could make a lot of money doing that if you promoted it. Doing like T-shirts with. I've thought about that for years. You know, I've got all kinds of good ones. Like, I'm not a scumbag. I'm an artist. That'd be a good one.
Remember the "I'm an asshole" T-shirt?
Yeah.
It kind of is along the theme of the friend of the show.
Yeah. I think it could be our road to riches.
The only T-shirt that I sold a lot of was I designed my high school reunions T-shirt.
Oh, really?
And I made money for the reunion to function.
Oh, that's cool. Hey,
So, yeah,
better than nothing.
yeah.
How you dealing with this heat?
It's fun. This heat. Well, I went to Alaska to get away from it.
I know. You're like,
It was nice up there. I had to wear long sleeve shirts. It was cold and overcast and kind of raining the whole time. And
that'd be so amazing to be able
it
to
was.
be able to summer in a cooler climate.
Thank God it was cool because the mosquitoes there. They're like, those monkeys on the Wizard of Oz that fly.
Yeah.
Kind of like what those mosquitoes are. They just like pick you up and carry off into the woods.
I never thought about mosquitoes in Alaska.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then bears, but the bears don't give a shit about you.
Yeah, you sent me some pretty cool footage of bears going by your boat, which is pretty insane.
Yeah, yeah. Bald eagles. It's like everything America. It's like
Right. You know what's funny is I took this. What's this guy's name? Michael Harner, I think. He's like this famous dude that taught about shamanism, and he gave this seminar. I went with my mother-in-law because she was into that stuff. And it was in San Francisco. We drove up there, took this seminar about shamanism, and he kind of like walked you through, different divination techniques and just talked about shamanism. And one of the things they did is paired you up with somebody in the class, and you had to bring a rock with you, and it was really weird. It was very like woo woo kind of stuff, but it was cool. I was into it. And the person they paired you up with was supposed to look at your rock and then give you some kind of reading about your future. We did that to each other. And then this woman who I just had the feeling she was totally full of shit. Like she just was not. I just had the feeling she was not, like, I don't know, connected in that way. And she's like, "I see you moving away to Alaska." I was like, "Alaska?" And I'm still waiting to see if, for some reason I end up in Alaska, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Late. It's not too late. Maybe she was seeing me because like we're stunt doubles. Maybe she got you confused.
Oh man. Well, okay. So I thought, we were talking about this idea of what we could discuss today about being professional fine artists and the expectations that we had versus the realities once we got there. And now that you're the perfect person to talk to. So
as you're mentioning that, I know we kind of discussed this before, but it just crossed my mind that at first I didn't really have any expectations.
Really?
I didn't have any idea. Yeah, I was kind of like, what was right in front of me was what was going on. I think because at first I was still trying to get a job.
Yeah. You were just looking for
And
any
then,
kind of work in the field, right?
yeah, and then when when selling my art as art was started to work, and I kind of like, you know, decided that going to work for somebody else was not the best idea compared to like just doing what I wanted and selling it
Mm.
myself. Then it was just like I was always, I think, trying to escape getting away from the traps that I was in. Like I had to get out of Venice Beach because it was just like they were changing the rules and the things were going sideways. It was always a struggle. It wasn't until I started think like it was like almost overnight. Like I discovered how to make canvas prints work, and all of a sudden my income doubled overnight.
Wow.
And it wasn't until then I started getting lofty ideas about the future. Really, I mean, I
Oh,
started.
okay.
Well, you think about it. That's maybe not quite. It's weird. Memory's weird, right?
Yeah.
Like
The older you get,
because
especially.
we continually update it with current information to describe the past, and so it gets distorted. Before I had canvas prints, I had realized that part of getting out of like this sort of selling on the sidewalk scene was to I had to have other people selling it for me, or so I had this idea about getting into galleries, but I was completely naive about how that was going to work.
Hmm.
And I just knew, I just saw people being successful in that arena, and they were doing basically what I was doing, which was making paintings or drawings or whatever, and then publishing them and selling copies.
Hmm.
They had a distribution network so they could sell them more widely
Right.
than any one person can do in a single location. And that was the holdup, is that even the art festivals I was doing, you had to be the artist selling the artwork. They didn't want representatives there and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So that limited what you could do. And here I was selling out of a tent, and I was making like $3,000 or $5,000 a month at the time, selling on weekends out of a tent.
Hmm.
And so I thought, how hard if I had 20 outlets
Right.
making at least $1,000 a month, how hard could that be?
Hmm.
If I'm selling out of a tent, how hard could it be for galleries to sell that much individually on average? That'd be golden, right?
Right.
You just don't know what you're up against.
The laugh says it all.
You just don't. But you can't let your own naivete stop you either. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're just gonna be sitting on the sideline wondering what could have been.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think about that often, like if I would have known how difficult it was and what a struggle it would have been, I think, I wonder if I still would have done it, but I still would have done it. I still would have done it because I don't think you can really appreciate the struggle until you're in it and you're like going, oh my God, why did I choose this? This is so hard. This is so not fun. And it's
Yeah, but
like,
you're gonna get a version of that no matter what
that's
decision
the
you make.
thing. Yeah. No matter what you do, it's like, yeah, it's just like when I was in my job in effects, it was like the pain of going to work that job every day was more than the pain of more than the pain of not being able to do my artwork, so it was like, okay, because
Yeah,
I was getting that taste of just a little success, like, oh, I sold a painting, I sold one painting at a show. Oh my God, I could see a way out. And yeah, but there's going to be pain no matter what, so you might as well
but
go
then
for
you
it.
start having these ideas, like you think about what success is going to be when you get there. Like, if I can just get to this point, if I can make this happen, I'm set,
Yeah.
right? I'm just golden. If I can just get 20 accounts that are making at least $1,000 a month for me,
Right.
how hard could that be if I'm doing it out of a tent? You know,
Yeah, yeah. It
and
makes
they're open all the time. They're open every damn day.
right. It makes
Um,
logical sense.
yeah, but so what happens is that and I got those galleries,
Hmm.
and there's been times where they haven't done well, but success, for lack of a better word, I guess,
Hmm.
it doesn't quite if you're waiting for it to look like it does in your head, you're never going to be satisfied with what successes you do have, right?
Absolutely.
So I have to take as much. So there's all kinds of other shit shows you deal with.
Shit sandwiches.
And you're just, yeah. There's goods and bads to both sides of it. But there is no making it. It's a constant up and down battle, and then you get 15, 20 years into your career, and you still have self-doubt coming up, wondering if all your best years are behind you already. Like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know I can't keep up with this young generation. Like, I fucking hate social media.
Yeah.
It's like, but do I have to do it? Why can't I just make the art? Where it's like, anyways, you can complain to yourself about all sides, but then I look around at my studio, which is, and I got it dialed in. I got a lot of things.
Oh,
somebody's trying to call me. Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, you have an amazing studio.
But that's temporal too. Like, so the attitude I have now is that I've achieved what I've set out to achieve. Basically, I've in my entire life made my living off my art since I was 22. I haven't had a regular job of any sort. And now when I'm getting older, I'm like, you have these ideas like you just going like it's just a up graph, like it must go up all the time, and
right,
and that's it. Most things are on a bell curve, and so now it feels like, am I on the way down? But maybe it can go back.
I know. Oh man, I so can relate to this. I think this is like this for every artist. I really do.
So and then you start seeing all these other artists that are just fantastic and just crushing it, and you're like, fuck it. Like I can't. It's like you get older and you just don't have the energy anymore. It's like, and your interests change. So your work change. Maybe not for you so much, but like I feel like my work is moving in different directions a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the angle I take now is I do the work that I'm interested in doing to the best of my ability.
Mm-hmm.
I get out in front of people to my best of my ability, and after that, there's not much I can do. I found when I've tried to make things successful, like, I whether it's what kind of art you create, like you create things because you think, oh, this is going to be a hit,
mm-hmm.
or you get involved in business relationships or strategies that are primarily, the commerce side of art.
Mm-hmm. I've
found that I've spun my wheels the most doing that.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean? So yeah. I look back at the most successful times, and I, financially in sales, and really what the core of it was I was doing the work that I felt was important, and then I just went and found the people, and so I did better doing it myself than galleries have ever done for me.
Oh, wow.
But the trade-off is I have a lot more time that I never had selling it myself.
Yeah,
so
that to me sounds like a dream, having the time.
So while I made more money selling it myself, I was also doing everything myself, and I was tied up with traveling and booths and and I'm going through a pretty busy schedule right now, and it's not near the amount of work that I did back 10, 15 years ago, and I'm friggin' exhausted.
That must feel good, though, in a way.
Yeah, well, I have my health. If I had been continuing on in the street festival stuff, I would have ran right into a stroke and heart attack. I wouldn't have had time to exercise and take time and eat. It's hard to eat healthy when you're on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I try now. It's hard to exercise in a regimented way when you're traveling a lot. Like maybe I just don't have the self-discipline, and that's another, self-talk. You just like, you're not good enough. You can't do it. You're too old. It's like that never, you just kind of have to let that bird chirp.
I know.
I kind of look over my shoulder at myself sometimes, like, what the where's this fucking coming from?
Right. Yeah. When I get to that point, because I definitely do, I just kind of am like, I just laugh. I'm like, what am I doing? This is so ridiculous. Why did I ever think this was a good idea? And it's like I kind of laugh and just let it go, because it's happened enough times now that I know, over 20 years now. It's like it's happened enough times to where I'm like, okay, that's just the voice that comes in and it goes
Yeah.
away and it's whatever, I can't turn back. I don't want to turn
Or
back.
it's pumping you full of delusional positive shit too.
Mhm. It's
Like, I'm
true,
just gonna
man.
buy my way out of this one in a couple of years when I make $1 million.
Yeah.
I'll just like, I don't know who needs to hear this, but your brain is not your friend. Ignore that shit.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, the thing I always find is the the time I'm most at peace and when things are going well is when I can shut everything else off and just be painting. When I'm painting, it's almost like, this inevitably happens to me. I'm doing well, and then things, sales slow down, or you have a bunch of deadlines, everything's crazy, and you just feel disconnected from. You just feel like then you start thinking, oh, why am I doing this? Why this is ridiculous? I'm too old. I can't deal with it anymore. I'm too tired, and and then somehow I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna just paint, get back to the easel, and start painting. And then once I paint, get in my little zone, put a movie on in the background. It's just like, it kind of resets everything. It's almost like a trip or something, taking a trip to where it like resets your brain, and then you can start again.
Well, you're hitting on something. I think that people don't, maybe they think about this, but this is an isolating career path.
Definitely
Spend a lot of time by yourself, and so you have a lot of time to have that chatterbox going on in your
true.
head, right?
Yeah.
And whether positive or negative, um, yeah, I think when I was out in the world selling and hustling, and I was bumping into a lot more people. It didn't feel so isolating.
Right. Plus, you don't have time to,
But
because you're just
also, so
hustling and working.
the other thing too, it's kind of a trip. Is we're talking about the self talk is to be successful at this. You have to have a certain amount of self-critical awareness. Like, you have to be able to look at your own work in a critical sort of view,
Yeah.
not necessarily like in a negative, unhelpful view, but you have to be self-critical. Like, when you're like, you didn't go to art school, but when I was in art school, you have other people that are also creative people feeding off and responding to your work. Maybe when you're in the effects industry, you had other coworkers that were like, "Yeah, this is good. This needs to work." You have something else. You have another point of view. But for us, it's like, you have your wife. I have a couple of friends that come over. Kalisa doesn't. We don't live in the studio anymore, so she doesn't see my work as often. But she's not a creative type.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, and then people are afraid to give you a straight critique on stuff too, because they they don't want to, and then the people who aren't people you want to take advice from. They're like, so, but anyways, there's a certain amount of being self-critical that is like kind of a component in being an artist, but you have to also know what to pay attention to and what not to. And I think mainly when and I'm thinking about the self-critical part of my work, it may not be like, this is a piece of shit, you should just throw it away. It's not like that, but it's usually like there's something off and I can't figure out what it is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah. That's having a trained eye, I think, too. It's because I've felt like ever since I first started painting. When I first started painting, I didn't know shit. I didn't know. I didn't know what value was. I didn't know anything about. I knew nothing. I was completely intuitive, other than what I learned through sculpting and what I learned about color mixing and makeup effects. So I knew how to get certain color. I knew how to mix colors and stuff. But I could always tell when something wasn't quite right, and then but I didn't know how to fix it. so I just keep messing with it until it was right. And that kind of turned into my style at the time. You know what I mean? So I was able to work with it, but that's like, that's really important to being, I think, a good artist, is being able to evaluate your own work as well.
But yeah, you have to. So you have to be able to differentiate between just regular old negative self-talk
Mm-hmm.
or positive self-talk, and thinking that and then the sort of critical eye about your artwork, for better or worse, right? I mean, you can fall in love with certain things about your paintings too that other people don't see.
Yeah. And it's like there's no one there to tell you which one is what's true, that your mind is telling you. You know what I mean?
That's our job, is to decide we make the work for ourselves until it's to a point where we think that it's ready to be seen by other people.
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe we're in a rush to get it out in front of people, because the world's passing us by. I got to get on my Instagram. I got to put out 5 videos a day. Like that shit, you can turn off.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely been feeling the social media pressure. I just went back on Facebook for the first time in, I don't know, a couple of years maybe. I've been posting. I post to promote things I'm selling, but not really getting on there and interacting. And I had like messages that I really needed to respond to, like business related stuff. And it's like, so I posted, I'm coming back onto Facebook, and it's like, it's part of, it's the doing the dishes or taking out the trash part of the job. It's like the things, for me anyways.
Yeah.
It's for me being like, I don't have a rep really. Although I am on this show, I'm kind of making moves more towards your model a little bit. Whereas I'm, normally I would sell these studies that I'm working on for the show to live off of. And, I kind of made a deal with Gary, like to sell the studies through him, through the gallery. And that way he can like front me money when I need it, rather than like, 'cause it takes a long time to take a picture, put it in the web, crop it, put it in the web store, put it in the frame it's going to be in Photoshop, put it in the web store, figure out the shipping. For like 15 of these things, it's super time intensive. I figure like, you sell them. This is the way it's supposed to work. You sell the work and I'll do the paintings. And, if I need the money, I'm going to hit you up for it, and we'll figure it out later,
Well, even if you don't spend, so that will, you have somebody else doing all that. What I found is, so I get a lot more free time when I have other people doing all this busy work.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't filled it with painting. I filled it with resting a lot.
Oh, really? Yeah. You're finally able to rest.
I rest. And then when I go to my work, I go to it fresher and more efficient. And the kind of work I put in, and I put on a 3 or 4 hour paint session, I make a lot more headway, because I'm not tired. I'm not, just coming from one thing to the other, so that you get some more time to think about what you're doing. I get to plan a little more. So I my first thoughts when I was getting into the situation was that I would be able to put out a lot more work. And I guess I could, but the putting out a lot more work isn't necessarily good for the work. Like some of it just takes the time it takes.
Yeah.
Like paint time to dry. I'm painting a lot thicker. I'm more impasta with palette knife stuff lately.
You're not using drying mediums or anything anymore, right?
Yeah, I've gotten rid of mediums and solvents in my work. In my oils, I'm using different tools, and I'm drilling down into I've gotten into the pigment codes on the back of the tubes of paint.
Yeah.
It's almost like a code to the entire painting.
I know. Isn't it incredible when you discover those codes? You're like, oh my God, it all makes sense.
I mean, I knew they were there, but I really sort of used them, because I have some colors that are like mixtures, like indigo blue from Winsor Newton, and I use that a lot. And all the codes of the pigments are on the back. And so now I can use those other paints as sort of like accents to accent that color, or I can mix my own version of it.
Yeah.
And there's some mixtures in other like student brand paints. I really love the color. Well, I want to use paints with less fillers or different sort of things in it. Well, I can go find the pigment codes and then go to the brands that I want to use and just buy those tubes and mix it myself. Right. and yeah. So all of my approach to painting now is I realize like the best work is done when I'm playing around. Like when you're on a phone doodling.
Yeah,
I
totally.
need to be in that state of mind where I'm just kind of farting around. Like, so if I don't know what to do, I'll just get colors out, start mixing the colors.
Oh
And I
yeah.
start around little panels and then I build out from there.
Oh yeah.
And
The studies you showed me last time I was at your place were just like amazing. Color, totally different color choices, really like strong compositions and like, real strong dark values, and like
yeah,
and different, still your style, but like different. So it was really cool to
yeah.
see
And
those.
there's other technical things like I'm using like a complementary colors to do
Mm-hmm.
things, mixing them together to get a neutral, and then mixing them with black and white grays to get different neutrals, and then how much variety can you get out of basically two colors in black and white? And it turns out you get quite a bit of variety out of that.
Yeah,
You know? and
definitely.
then that creates a vibe. I've been doing all kinds of strange things
Yeah,
that,
the palette knife stuff's been really cool. Those flowers
and
that
I
you did
haven't
in that one painting with the palette knife
yeah,
was so awesome.
and I haven't been showing them, and I haven't been posting much of anything online really at all. And so the other self talk I get into is like, I don't have any idea how people are going to respond to these.
Right.
They have the flavor of my other work, but they are also markedly different.
Yeah.
There's landscape elements, although the flowers aren't really flowers; they're just thick blotches of paint.
Yeah, but they
And
look
I'm
like
like,
yeah.
am I gonna get away with this? But I can't think of I can't think of like adding more detail is going to make this any better. Like, do you
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
see the petals, or do you just need to have the idea that this is an abstracted sort of scene?
Right, yeah.
I don't know, and I have so it's kind of frustrating. I have no idea uh, how people are going to respond, and then it's in the gallery, and then it's whatever the galleries. How good are they at getting cultivating the collector base that they have on their email list and getting people to the event, and having they don't do how you're only as good as the sales staff
Yeah.
and their ability to talk about the artwork or to cultivate a relationship with the collectors. You know,
Yeah.
and some galleries have sales staff that turn over constantly. So, and every gallery is kind of like its own little fiefdom, and so the gallery owners and directors sometimes will, have all these grand opinions about what's going to sell and what's not going to sell, and if you can't get them on board, it doesn't matter if you have a bestseller. If they don't believe it, they're not going to put it on they're not going to champion it.
Push
They're
it,
not going to
yeah.
put it up front. They're not, yeah. And so you have to almost like work through the gallery, like work,
Yeah, right.
I'm not talking about all of them are this way, but a lot of them they have aspects of this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's just like it's like the, the office politics of galleries, and they shift around and move, and people like come and go, and sometimes you'll have a great gallery director, and then they decide to move on with their life, and then that gallery for you doesn't do as well anymore. And like other people are really important in this game. And it's like there is no. Like, I think the biggest misconception I might have had was if I could just get into the galleries, I'm golden. Like once
Yeah.
it's there, it sells,
Yeah.
and that isn't. It doesn't sell any better or worse than it does when you're selling it yourself. It
Yeah.
sells or it doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, you might have some salespeople that can just sell anything,
Mm-hmm.
but mostly you're dealing with a set of people who aren't you, so they're not as close to it as you, and don't have the ability to talk about the artwork like you can.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. That's why I was. I remember we were talking about this, and I was thinking, like, couldn't Gabe just do like a Zoom meeting with all of these different people at the same time that are selling your work?
I have. You know what they do when I was on a Zoom meeting with a gallery recently, and half of them were looking at their phone while I was talking. You know how demoralizing that is?
I do, because remember when during the NFT thing we were involved with, I got on that. I had a Zoom meeting with this probably tech bro in maybe his late 20s. And, I was going to do an NFT for them to auction for their event. And the dude was putting his socks on and putting his shoes on the whole time I was talking to him. Just like wasn't even paying attention. It was so like, I just was so.
Well, maybe that's how they pay attention. Maybe it's a generational thing. But.
Could be, but it seemed like he just was not into it. But you know how that whole scene ended up being anyway. Yeah, we still have to do the post-mortem episode of that because I really feel like there's...
if we wait long enough, we can lump that with the AI post-mortem.
Yeah. The tech bro post-mortem. I still feel like there's some value in there in the NFT world, and it's like not popular to say now, but I feel like I don't know. That's for another episode. But I do feel like there was kind of like these core ideas that I still think are cool ideas, as far as like people collecting digital stuff that are always online, that are not into, physical stuff. I get it as a thing, collecting doesn't make sense anyway in a logical sense. It's about an emotional connection and blah, blah. And it's the community you're in, but it just ended up being a complete and utter shit show and horrible disappointment.
I know the word shit show keeps coming up, and at one point I was thinking about calling my new collection of work the shit show.
That's great. Shit.
Just trying to advertise. Well, it's printed in the paper. I'm sure Facebook ads will be okay with that title. They wouldn't let me promote a painting with a guy smoking a cigar, but
just put a little asterisk in where it says in the eye or something, where it says shit, shit show.
I just use the emoji.
Yeah. Yeah, emoji and then show. The emoji and then show. That would be good. Sometimes I think of ideas like that and I'm like, oh, that's such a great idea, but I'm not the artist. It's not appropriate for what I'm doing. I kind of wish I had a different style.
That's what t-shirts are for. No, that's what t-shirts are for. You just create a ePublic account, you make t-shirts, and you just put them up there as goofs.
Yeah.
I made one that was that elevator, or not that elevator, the submarine that collapsed with all the billionaires.
Mm-hmm.
I made one that had the billionaires diving club. Had that submarine going down.
That one might have sold if you had advertised it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been, I've definitely been. Things have been. The market's rough right now. I think.
I think so.
Every artist I talk to, every gallery I've talked to, has been saying it's like kind of slow right now.
Yeah. What I've always thought was funny is we always have reasons and excuses when things are slow, but we never do when things are good. Like that's just the way it's supposed to be. Even when I was at the beach, it was like, oh, it was just the wind was up, or it was a holiday, everybody left town for the first time. Like there's always some explanation for ourselves,
Yeah.
And generally, well, in the gallery stuff, a lot of the slow season is the summer. It's generally slower then. And even when I was doing street festivals, art festivals, the busiest times were in the spring and in the fall. So those were big cycles. Like it would be like March till June would be a lot of shows, and then after Labor Day through almost through Christmas.
Yeah.
September, October would get busy with a lot of festivals. So from what I've been hearing from through the grapevine from galleries is that everybody's nervous about the state of the world right now, and so they're just not comfortable in spending money on a completely useless item.
Yeah, I know. I was talking to Gary, and he's like, "Yeah, well, the show is right before the election. It's like the month before the election, so it's like such a bad time to have an art show."
Well, I think if the art speaks to the times that we're in, I think that's what are you going to quit trying to quit making art because it's a bad time of year?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you
art is
there's
for
always,
the art is for the bad times of the year.
yeah.
The
Well,
art.
some of the best art comes out of those times
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
and so there's always ups and downs. Sometimes daily,
yeah,
and the only thing we can really do is to not try to get wound up about the extremes, ups and downs. Like even I call it not believing your own good press or bad. Like don't believe your own press.
yeah,
I guess
yeah.
like whether it's good or bad. Like
Mm-hmm.
because things go super and awesome for a while. That's just enjoy it while it lasts, I guess.
Yeah.
And things drag you through the mud, and unless it wipes you out completely, you just recover and get up and keep going back at it.
Yep.
And
That's it.
there is no easy street. There is no shortcut. And at some point, you look back and you realize like you've succeeded this whole time. Like you were an artist your whole life. You grew up drawing and painting, and you got into the effects business and were in high school. I'm like, there's never been a time that this wasn't what you were doing. So
Right.
like, and I think there's a tendency for us to always want more.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you see billionaires, they have everything, but they're not satisfied because there's more to be had
Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah.
And if you can let that go of not needing anything more than you already have, you realize like, oh, if my 22-year-old self saw me right now, that 22-year-old self would be would be like, whoa.
Yeah. Right. Would be,
Yeah.
yeah. Would be amazed and excited. Wow, this is my future. Incredible.
He might be disappointed I'm driving a Nissan Murano, but he would. But that shit's paid for. So I tell my younger self to shut up. I read your diary. You wanky bitch.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean that it goes, it's like it's so simple, and it kind of goes back to the just the basics, it's like a very zen idea. Be happy with what you got. That's always it's tricky though. It's tricky because I'm always like, by being happy with what you got, is that like a way of giving up,
Well,
trying to get further? Because part of what drives us, and I'm pretty sure you and and definitely me, it's like I want my art to get to more people. I want to do more work. I want to have more time. I want to be able to focus on the work. I want to create really amazing art. And that's, that means getting more successful.
well,
So it's like,
so
how do you decide when it's giving up versus accepting that it's all good right now? You know what I mean?
well, I think you have to take some time to accept the place you're in. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you're going to freeze yourself up with anxiety about not getting what you want.
Yeah.
I think maybe instead of thinking about like accepting where you're at is good enough, because there's a certain amount of dissatisfaction that keeps driving us. We're dissatisfied with that. We think. But if I go at my work trying to make better work, I don't know what better is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what makes my work better or not. I mean, that's all subjective, right?
Yeah.
So I think not being content with the way things are, to the degree that you can, and not being attached to the outcomes. Like you're talking about wanting to make more art or do these things. That's different than I want to make more art in order to get rich. You're trying to game an outcome.
Right.
And as soon as you start doing that, you set yourself up for disappointment. Like the only reason that we could be disappointed is because we haven't attained the outcome in which we envisioned from the beginning.
Right.
But those outcomes that we envisioned were just illusions or delusions of grandeur, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're going to be important, or we're going to lead a movement, or we're going to be rich and afford fancy cars and mansions, and just be able to sit on a beanie bag chair full of $100 bills or whatever it is,
we're gonna be in the art history books, and they don't even make art history books anymore.
Yeah. Well, even if you attained, you're driving Lamborghinis kind of success, all that is fickle too. It is like the tides churn for that as
Right.
well, and you know, so I guess what I'm getting at is you got to learn to be content with the amount of successes that you have right now. I mean,
Mhm.
if you're an artist out there and you're selling some work, even if you're not making a living at it, if you're making work and you're having that's successful. If you're in a position where you're making all of your income or a lot of your income or even some of your income off of artwork, you're doing it.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
know, there's always levels and scales. There's always somebody that's doing it better or
Or more.
appears to be doing it better.
Yeah, yeah.
But you would have to be. Sometimes I look at those artists that are doing more than I'm doing. I'm like, I don't want to do what they're doing.
Right. Yep.
And so my measure of success is I do what I want. I get
Yeah,
up when
yeah.
I sleep when I'm tired. I eat when I'm hungry.
Yeah. 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 That's like,
And I don't miss.
yeah, John Waters said the his definition of success is you don't have to work with assholes if you don't want to.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's pretty good.
yeah.
I
And
think,
you don't.
yeah, yeah. I
Well,
think,
sometimes you can't
yeah,
avoid them all.
if there's an asshole that's gonna give you a lot of money for a painting. But I was gonna say, I think that the non-attachment is really an important thing you said, and it's like this on in Zen and kind of Eastern philosophy, this idea of non-attachment, and it's like this in magic and ceremonial magic too. When they say when you do like a spell to make something happen, you do it, and then when it's done, and it's like this with visualization, all that all that crazy stuff. But always what they say is once you do it, once you do the visualization, once you do the working or the spell, you have to not care if you get it or not. You have to be like, either way is fine. And that is part of what makes it happen.
So why do the spell at all?
Well, because you're trying to get a thing. You're trying to make a thing happen.
I think that's where things go wrong. When you're trying to get a thing, you're already getting in your own way. It's like, those movies where people are running through the kitchen, somebody's chasing them, throwing over shit behind them. That's like throwing shit in front of yourself as you're running.
But that's the thing. That's the two paths. There's the magician and there's the mystic. And it's like
Yeah.
they're two sides of the same coin. The mystic is about enlightenment and spiritual attainment of spiritual matters, and the magician wants to create things physically. And so it's like, as an artist, you're both of those things because you're physically manifesting something with a painting, but you're also trying to make something that's like enlightening or something
Well,
that has a magic to it. You know what I mean?
I feel like when I'm doing my best work, I'm not even doing it. It's like, it's just like
Yeah.
I'm there standing there transferring the paint from a palette to a painting. And like all the decisions are like, I don't have to make them, like they're intuitive.
Yeah. It's like a
Like
channeling thing.
something is, and that's what I feel like. And I look around like sometimes like I think I mentioned to people, I have a hard time nowadays like taking credit for anything I do because one, I don't know exactly how I did. I mean, I know what I was doing, but there's so many other people involved in what I'm doing. Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
but what I mean about not being attached is not that you don't care, not the things that when they go bad they don't bother you or they go good they are exciting, but or that you're not trying to achieve something necessarily, but you can't be attached to the outcome. I think that's what you're getting. It's like you do this thing, your magic or whatever, you're making the painting, and like when I start my paintings, I don't know what they're supposed to look like before I finish them.
Mm-hmm.
That I do a lot of spontaneous decision making during the making of the painting. That's part of the fun for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I don't have any control over, and I try not to get too attached to, is if other people like it or not.
Yeah.
You want people to like it. You think they're going to like it, but if you're measuring your success based on sales or the public's reaction, like the thing is like, well, you were sharing some work with us earlier that I'd never seen, and that guy's probably long dead, and you don't know how your work's going to be.
Yeah.
It becomes a big. It's no longer yours, and it's the world's. After it leaves the studio door, it's not your work anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, you on the copyright.
Yeah, I've heard. I've heard musicians say, I think it was Paul McCartney saying something like that, or no, Pete Townsend from the Who. It's like once it's out there, it's like it doesn't belong to you anymore.
Yeah, people are going to do with it and say things about it that you have no control over. They're going to make their own attachments, their own meanings. They're going to, whether they attach those to you and drag, who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know. I think maybe at the core, we all want to be recognized. We all want to be recognized for the work, and we want to share something that connects with other people.
Yeah.
It's part of our nature of wanting to be connected.
And at the same time, we're doing it. It's funny because it's like, in order to do it, at least I think from what you're saying, and I know this is true for me, the important thing when you're painting is to make something that you think's amazing. That's the main point. You can't start thinking, oh, what's popular and this and that. You have to go like, this is exciting to me. I think it's amazing. But then you hope that people like it. It's like you kind of hope that it makes that connection. So it's almost like your artwork is an expression of yourself. It's almost like going to a party and just hoping people like you for who you are. It's like an exaggerated version of that. Like you're putting yourself out there in this grand way, and you're like, okay, hopefully people like it, or at least some people like it. And it's like kind of finding people who resonate with you in that way.
I've always done it that way. And the thought that I had was that if I like it, surely I'm not that different from anybody else. Surely there's other people who are going to like it too.
Yeah.
If I do something that I like, surely there's going to be I didn't care if everybody liked it.
Yeah. That's kind of, that I sort of said that wrong, going to a party and hoping everybody likes you. It's more like going there or going into any kind of event or something with a bunch of people. And then, like when you go out amongst people, you want to find the people that you kind of click with.
Yeah. You go to a party, finding people that are like you at the party.
Yeah. Yeah. That you can relate to, that you can be friends with or whatever. It's kind of like that, I think, in a weird way.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know, because it's a weird thing to where you have to not care what people think, but at the same time you do want to reach the people that are like you or that can appreciate you for who you are as an artist.
Yeah, well, because you're not just expressing yourself, you're expressing you're making an expression on behalf of people who are like you too, that don't have the ability.
Yeah, true.
Right. So they find themselves in your work.
Yeah.
In ways that they didn't expect, and that surprise is what gets them.
Right.
They recognize something in the work that they like, and it may not be something that you had an intended.
Right.
It's funny. It's like like when Lisa sees your art, she's like, "Man, that stuff is scary. It's it's dark." And I always look at it and I see the sense of humor in it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and I see it, and I'm like, to me, it just makes me feel good. It's like it doesn't register as scary to me.
No, they're comedies on the cusp of tragedy.
Yeah. I like that. I'm going to start using that to promote my art. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. But, I'm making the work for people that would like that kind of work. I feel like I'm sort of fulfilling a role, because there's not a lot of people, I don't think, doing it like I'm doing it. But I mean, every artist feels that way, I suppose.
I feel like I've been afforded the opportunity to do this, and so I'm doing my best to do what I've been given the opportunity to do, which is to do the work I want to do, and put it out in the world so that it is out there. and hopefully it finds the audience. And I'm relying on other people right now to do that. Going back to social media, I just don't trust social media. It's too much of a shit show. Again, there's that word again.
Mm-hmm.
It's I see it's a full-time job of video production and content creation, and that's not what I want to do with my life.
Yeah, right.
And the only other way around that is to be out, in public with it. So, and so I go back and forth. Like, should I start putting, so I guess my angle now on social media is like, I've been working on a bunch of stuff, and I will put it all together, and I will put it all out on social media together rather than this piecemeal. Here's a sketch I did. Here's a painting I'm working on. I think people just they get lost in the sort of slow ebb.
Oh yeah. That's what. Yeah, I saved that for my Patreon and then finished pieces I put on social media.
Yeah, those are the true believers who are there to see everything.
Want to see the process and see it change.
But for the general public, all I really want to put out is the finished artwork.
Yeah, that's the way.
And then I want to put it out after all of my collector base and true believers, collector groups and stuff I have. They've had a chance to see it first.
That's interesting. So we're kind of doing the same thing, except I'm using Patreon, whereas you're using the gallery.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so I'm time lapsing everything I'm working on, and then when I send the paintings to the gallery, I send them the time. I do a lot of time lapses in the TikTok app, but you can download them. I send them to them with like a blurb on it that says for collector preview only, and they're using it to show only to their collectors first.
That's cool. Yeah.
And then the first people to see the originals are the people that show up at the event at the gallery. Give them to come out, and they get a little, something special. They get to see it first.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of throwing it out in front of just the passerbys, people sitting on the toilet, I'm putting it out in front of people who actually came out and look at it, be present with it.
Yeah.
And whatever that, if that means anything. Again, that's another, game I'm playing.
I think it makes sense though to me. I'm doing the same thing, but since it's not in a physical location, I'm doing it for people who are willing to pay $1 a month, at least $1. Like they're willing to pay to see it. So it's like there is that barrier to entry, whereas yours is like getting in their car and going to the gallery to see the stuff in person.
Yeah, or the galleries will preview it to them, whether they live there or not too.
Yeah.
So it's just creating a little bit of something more special for people who are regularly following my work, I guess. I don't know, but mostly it's because I don't have the time and energy to just do this day in and day out video stuff. Because setting up the videos and setting up the cameras and doing all the editing, that starts eating into your time that you could be doing for the thing. So it's more of a time management thing. I know. I spend a lot of time focusing on production. Like I have cameras that all I have to do is push record. I don't have to do a lot of setup.
Right.
And then it's just managing the files. And then when I get the whole project or the whole collection finished, then I can go through and I can put together videos of different things.
Right. It seems like the answer because it's like at this point, I think it's pretty clear what you need to do to be successful on social media. It's basically right now it's making little reels. It's making the shot change every 3 to 5 seconds. You know what I mean? Under 30 seconds or whatever. There's kind of like a format to it that seems to work. And it seems like it would make sense to hire someone to do you film and then give them all the footage and let them do it. But then they'd have to know how to do it in the same way that your reps need to know how to talk about your art to sell it.
And anybody who can do that is probably doing it their own social media account about how to do it.
Yeah.
So, but to be honest, and I don't mean to denigrate other artists, but a lot of these videos are the best thing about their artwork. The fantastic videos of just mediocre, shitty work.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the world we live in, that's more important than the artwork. It's the presentation on social media is more important as far as, within social media.
I mean, I don't know, if they have a big enough following, maybe that's worth it. I mean, regardless of how good their work is, if you have a big enough following, maybe you can just make a living off views. I don't know if these people are getting paid for how much traffic they're generating on the site, and like or
Yeah, I mean, you get brand deals and stuff. That's how a lot of these people make money, is through brand deals. And
so the other thing I see too with social media is fickle. It changes its rules all the time. It's like another Venice Beach. Like all of a sudden you're banned or have to join a lottery system, or you get the algorithms like, you know what, you're not the flavor anymore. You know, like, and then you put all this work and you built up this thing on this platform.
yeah,
Who it's then changed, and now you got to do it all over again. So you're really in a
it's fucked. It's fucked up. It's so they just screw their users like every 6 months by changing things. It's so wrong, and they don't even know. They don't even know why. They don't like tweak things on purpose, as far as I know. I always tell the story about, I forget who it was talking about. Someone they got quit Instagram, and they went to a bar with them, and they got, a little tipsy and kind of started spilling their guts about everything. They were like a tech person behind the scenes, and they were like, we don't know. Yep. We don't know how it works. We don't know how the algorithm works. We don't know how to game the algorithm. It's constantly changing and doing its own thing. And it's just like, that's the robot takeover. That's the Terminator shit, Skynet.
It's almost, I feel like not engaging with it. That's where I've gotten to.
I know, same here. Yeah.
And I worry that it might be detrimental, but
I'm going through the same exact thing, man. I'm telling you, it's like, yeah, I'm just like going, oh man, I should be on there, but at the same time, I'm just like, I can't do it. It's so hard.
It's tougher for you because you rely so heavily on social media.
Yeah.
Internet traffic,
Definitely. And I haven't disconnected as much as you have either. I don't think.
Yeah.
I've stayed on a little more.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on there seeing what's happening, but I'm not really posting. I post the stories sometimes, but like, I know you can post your old work, but I get tired of posting old work. So like, I don't want to put out the same shit that I've seen a million times.
Yeah. But you got to assume that the way they put they put it is, you got to, there's going to be people that haven't seen that piece. A lot of people, if you post it again, so you're kind of like doing it another time to make sure everybody gets to see it.
Yeah. Well, part of my goal is, like, because I have the gallery locations, is that's my promotion. I'm out in the physical world and people are walking by.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
how many galleries are you working with now?
I think I have about 12 galleries, 12 accounts.
That's nice.
The Limelight, the management company that's distributing and publishing the newer work, they've brought on a few new galleries. One of them is in Key West, so that should be getting some good visibility there.
Yeah.
Got one in Boston and Santa Fe, New Mexico, and San Diego, which I was just at, down in the Gaslamp.
Oh,
so,
cool.
Yeah,
I have one gallery.
Yeah, I mean,
I just have one gallery I work with pretty much.
The thing is, you can have a bunch of galleries, but generally it's just a handful that are doing all the lifting.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Three or four. If you get 3 or 4 powerhouse accounts that are working for you, you can do pretty well.
I feel like if I did a series of the skull flower paintings, which has been my change, like I haven't changed my stuff. I mean, I've gone through slight variations of what I've been doing over my career, but these skull flower paintings are the
secret between us was because I got flowers in all my paintings.
Yeah, I know.
It wasn't planned that way.
For people who don't know this, people who maybe haven't listened to every episode with Gabe on, we have this weird parallel career. Our solo shows are always on like the same weekend or the same day. We used to look alike when Gabe had long hair
and one less gray and white hair.
There's all these weird parallels. It's like kind of uncanny. But anyway,
You're married to Lisa. My fiance's name is Kalisa.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's really and things come up all the time too, where it's just like, hey, there's another parallel. So we're kind of like living in this weird, this weird parallel life. What was I saying now? What were you saying right before that?
I don't remember.
The parallel flowers. Oh, skull flowers. I was thinking, I feel like, I feel like those skull flower paintings are so much more like could go in galleries that you show in. Whereas most of my stuff, I don't feel like would fit in the galleries that you show in.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
And so
it's got the right sort of palette for more of a mainstream audience.
Yeah. So I'm like, that's one thing I'm thinking is I'm wondering if I can maybe, I don't know, almost have like a secondary little career with these giclées in regular galleries rather than being, I don't know, because I keep making them and I like them, they're fun. So
what my thinking is, if like I was to get out of galleries completely, what would I do? It would be a version of what you're doing, but instead of just posting and trying to do organic reach on social media, I would do some of that, and the stuff that did really well, I would then pay to advertise in real select markets and direct traffic directly to my website to buy.
I just haven't had any luck with paying for ads.
Well,
but it has to work because people do it.
I have when I was doing the portrait demos in the galleries as part of the show, I would advertise that at the I'm going to be at this event, and they would have like time lapse of me doing it. And when I went to Austin, I had a line out the door before the gallery opened.
Wow.
And I went to Canada, the gallery is friggin' packed with people.
Whoa, okay.
They were there to get a chance to get a free portrait, but it proved a concept that people do see this. They do. If you have the other thing is you're creating brand awareness, and you're just kind of getting around this sort of luck of the draw algorithm. You do posts that you do them organically. Those that do really well will do well with a broader audience, and you can create lookalike audiences, and you can do things. And some of the privacy features on like Apple iPhones have taken that down a bit, but that's how I would probably approach it. Doing online marketing in a real way, and do it like any other e-commerce business.
I had the impression that it worked online marketing and buying ads, but you had to like invest a significant amount of money. Like it doesn't work for a couple $100. It's like you got to invest thousands of dollars.
It depends on what your goals are, really.
Yeah, I guess so.
And depends on who your audience is. Like if you're trying to go after the same audience as somebody who's willing to spend a lot of money on it, where it's real competitive, then it might. So like if I was to do this, it'd probably not just be advertising my art to come buy my art, but I'd be doing some sort of pop-up events or some sort of thing where I would be promoting it to not only people who like my work, but like trying to grow that audience. But that's such a huge other undertaking.
I know. I just want to paint.
That's where I tend to like sigh and feel defeated. Is just like it used to seem like it was so simple, and now it seems like it's everything is such a big beast to deal with that. Yeah. Kind of wish MySpace was around again.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like everybody's scrambling for the prize, and that competition makes it like more difficult to do. There's more people trying to get it.
It's so much noise, and so how do you stand out from the noise?
Yeah.
And my thinking is well, you don't go into a noisy room, right?
You're right.
That's why I always feel like I could go down to the boardwalk in Venice Beach with a bunch of my artwork and sell it and make money today.
Right.
Yeah. I did that for 7 or 8 years, and only one day ever did I zero out there.
Wow.
I always made money out there.
Wow.
The day I zeroed is because it got so windy by 10 o'clock in the morning that it just blew everybody off the boardwalk. I had to leave.
Wow.
but I never went out there and made nothing.
Yeah.
You know, my cheapest item was $10, so it's not a big stretch to make $10. But I never went out there and came back empty-handed. So like, I know I can do it if I know there's things that I can do if I needed to.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I feel the same way. Like I could go.
It's that pit of desperation versus demand. You know? Like, which way they're gonna go?
The German in Venice got rid of his place in Venice. You know that that YouTube guy, he sold it or got out of his lease.
Oh,
now he's a full-time YouTuber.
Yeah, it makes sense. Now he's a German in the street. What's he doing?
He just goes to different places now, and then he goes back to
the German in different places.
Oh man. Well, I mean, is there I was curious if there was like one thing that you wish you knew before you started this whole thing. Was there one thing that like, oh, if I had only known that earlier, I would have saved so much time, or I would have got to where I'm going faster, or because I'm not sure what mine is too, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think the one thing I wished I would have known was it's going to be difficult the whole way through. Like you're never gonna hit that point where it's just easy street.
Yeah, but here we are looking at how difficult social media is, and we're already giving up on it. So if you knew of all the difficulties that lie ahead, you might not have embarked on the journey.
Yeah, true. That's true.
I think, the version of this is like, what would you tell your younger self?
Yeah.
There's a couple of things. Don't neglect your health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And the other is the best advice I ever heard from anybody was don't listen to anybody.
That's a good.
Don't listen to what people tell you about what you should do.
Yeah. Because
they're not in it most of the time. They like. I remember when I was first trying to by doing this Wild West Outlaw stuff. I went to the guy from the Cannibal Flower. I was like, hey, I want to do this. Maybe we can do. And he just and there was a couple of people who were like, nah, Westerns aren't really a thing. Nobody's going to go for that. And I did it anyways, and it fucking blew up. It took off.
Wow, yeah.
So if you listen to what other people tell you and all their advice, like nobody knows.
Yeah.
You got to really follow your intuition. I mean, if I look back at what worked for me, is I followed my intuition about things. About like I always spent money back into my business. I invested in printers and things like. I follow what worked. I think I spent a lot more time when I was younger beating down doors that didn't open instead of going through the ones like the windows that were open. Like there's things that are opening up to you.
Path of least resistance kind of thing.
If I was dead set on getting into the animation studios and I just focused on that, I might have figured out and finally got into it, only to find out that it was a hellscape and I would have hated it. I know people that have industry, so like,
and you would have lost your job by now many times over.
Yeah,
layoffs.
That too. So I think looking back, I realized like if you follow what's working and build on what's working, that's your path.
Yeah.
What's working, what works for you, and you have to go out there and stumble around. Like you have to just kind of jump in the pool and flail about.
Totally, man.
And either you're going to drown or you find yourself swimming.
Right. Yeah. I would say that's exactly how it worked for me too. It was the first few years were trying to floundering, trying to figure out what to do, and trying different styles and approaches. And once certain ones started selling, I was like, okay, I'm going to go in this direction now. And I just kind of kept following that. But it was never like, I never started at the point. I started at the point of no one's going to buy this shit because it was, 2,000 monster paintings. There was not a market at all. And so I was thinking, it was the testing the Joseph Campbell theory I've talked about many times. And so I was like, so it has to be kind of unlikely to happen in order for me to prove this theory. So I have to, and it's this thing that I like. It's so funny. It's like slowly zooming in, like you're judging me. Your automatic camera's slowly, like you're kind of judging. but it was always like, okay, I have to do, in order to test this idea, follow your bliss idea, I have to do what am I enjoying? And you can enjoy all these different styles. And it was fun playing around. But then when you see, like you said, when you see a door opening, you go in that direction, and it ends up leading you into what becomes your style and your career. It's not like I sat down and was like, okay, what are people going to buy? Let me try this. It was more like, I'm going to try and just do what I like.
You're more likely to make something that people would want to buy doing that. Usually, that's been my experience.
Oh yeah, right. And I think that's what it takes to make a good piece of artwork. I don't know. Maybe it's mystical to say that or something, but I feel like, I don't know, there's something to this kind of energetically or something to painting from your heart or creating from your heart or creating from a place that you really believe in, that it imbues the artwork of something, I feel like.
Yeah, it's like penmanship. It's indicative of the person who made it. It's
yeah, I guess
it's an expression of it's an expression of your point of view and your experiences and your emotional state and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think when really good artwork stands the test of time because it isn't. There's something surface about it that's likable, but there's something intrinsic about it that speaks to the nature of what we are.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be something simple like people getting onto a little canoe by the riverside or something.
Right.
But somebody who was there and experienced it is going to make a much more interesting piece of artwork about it than somebody who read about it or saw it in a video or a picture.
Yeah.
So
it's all about the test of time. That's the only test there is, really. If something and that's like the one thing, you can't fake it. You can't change it. You can't force time to go faster. It's like, if it's around and people are still into it after a certain period of time, it stood the test of time. And there's so much, I'm sure you could think who I'm thinking of, and I'm not going to say their name, but there's, many very successful artists and galleries that I'm wondering that are selling millions of dollars worth of canvas clays that I'm sure they're not gonna withstand the test of time.
No, their artwork's going to end up on a cruise ship and end up going nowhere. I don't.
Definitely. Well, yeah, we don't know that, but
No, the only thing I can chalk up that kind of stuff is that they enjoy what they're doing and it's working for them.
That's okay. That's just me being a snob too, because it's art. Should be for everybody, and there are some people that like that kind of artwork.
Oh, that's what you're talking about is art that's strictly for commerce. Like
yeah. Well,
so we make art, and there's a commerce side of it, which is the selling it, in the business side, and then there's making art. Like you can go, like I was down in San Diego in the gas lamp, and I walked into the shop, and it had keychains that were like little dog bones, and every one of them had a different name on it. So if you had a dog with a name, I'm sure they had it, and they had both of our cats' names, but they didn't have anything for cats. So like, what am I going to get dog names for a cat? Like, they had like little, I don't know what they'd have for cats, like a little mouse. My cat's name, I probably would have got it for tweezers. I don't know, but that's technically that's art too, right?
Right. Well, yeah.
You know, you can put those on canvas too, and salon style the wall with the
Yeah.
canvas is a
Yeah.
dog with a damn name on it.
Yeah, that gets to the discussion of what is art too. But I agree. You know, the game we're playing is like we're we're trying to sell enough to make a living, so there's that commerce side, but we're also trying to make like amazing pieces of fine art. Whereas, you know, the stuff that you know what I'm talking about, kind of art, is not. It doesn't have the magic thing in it. It's more. It's a gimmick. It's fun, maybe for people who like it.
Well, it's more commercial art.
Yeah, it's more commercial art. Yeah, it's more commercial art. But
Its intention is to like go in your bar if you have one in your
yeah,
home.
yeah,
People buy art for all kinds of reasons, and some
yeah,
of that art is. I think when people walk into like when they're going into galleries and stuff, they get really taken aback because if they're not collectors of art or they don't know what they're getting into and they feel like they're about to get swindled. I think, and if they're buying something that they see and it makes them laugh and it's just like, you know, and it's got enough sort of promotion around it, it seems legitimate. They're not afraid, like they feel there's more permission to buy that kind of artwork because they know how to talk about it. They know how to. There's nothing to explain.
yeah.
They don't do it to their friends.
It's
It
easy.
it fits in with their vibe of their room they want to put it in. When
Yeah,
they're walking into something like what we're doing, often I think what I've noticed is that people see it and they don't know how to explain it to themselves, and they're looking for an explanation,
right.
you know, or a context.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and what the other things they're seeing on the wall, they're seeing like Dr. Seuss, or they're seeing Charles Schultz peanut stuff. They're seeing stuff that is, or they're seeing paintings of celebrities. They're
Right.
seeing they already recognize and understand, and they don't have to sort of quantify it in their head a bit.
Yeah.
And then they're in this whole like just walk onto a car lot. They're getting, you know, they're getting pressured into buying like a thing, you know. And they're dealing with, you know, there's a lot of things that go on with people walking into galleries that you kind of have to overcome if they're not straight up collectors. It's, you know, when they're walking, when I was doing it in festivals, they're there to see art, so it's expected. When I do it, when that's when art festival, I was doing it at street festivals. They were there to have fun, and there was no pressure just walking into somebody's booth to look around,
Right.
you know. And the prices weren't as high on some of it, and it's just a different. It's a different psychology that you're dealing with, and then
Yeah.
then it boils down to the people in the gallery and how they know how to handle that sort of situation. I don't know
Yeah.
what I'm about, but
It's just, you know, this is life as a professional fine artist. There's a lot of stuff you got to deal with that you're not that interested in, and you kind of need to learn to love it, or at least learn to understand it in order
it's not.
to.
For if I had to sum it up, it's not going to look like what you think it is,
Yeah.
and the key is to recognize you're there, even though it doesn't look like you thought it was going to look like. It looks different.
Yeah. 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 Well, I mean, I just
Could it be better? Yes.
I feel like, you know, when I was starting out, I had no frame of reference other than seeing my dad, you know, whereas he was like doing commercial illustration and then trying to do this fine art thing, and it was always feast or famine. And so I didn't really have any big ideas about the inner workings of working with galleries. I never really talked to him that much about it. So, you know, for this episode, and, you know, often when we talk about art, I just feel like I want to try and provide some kind of insight for people who are thinking about doing this or trying to create a career. Because I know a lot of people, a lot of artists listen to the podcast that are not necessarily established, or they're starting to get established. So I think any kind of insight we can offer is probably valuable.
The other thing I just was thinking that is kind of proportionally related is your ability to be organized and have systems in place.
Oh man, yeah, that's
The more organized you can be and the more you can create systems for things, the better you are at that, the bigger levels you can go on. Because if you're not, you can only manage so much.
I
And if you don't
know.
have an organization to manage more, you're not going to manage it. If you don't have the systems in place to do bigger things, you know, whether it's how you pack your vehicle to go down to the show,
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, keeping track of your inventory, your systems for packaging and shipping, your systems for all of that stuff. I mean, there's nobody, I mean, I guess you can look on YouTube, people will give you advice on how to do that stuff, but the more you can keep organized, the better. And getting rid of clutter and dumb shit out of your life. You know,
Yeah.
whether it's personal habits
I'm looking
or
around my studio right now. I know this firsthand. It's like what I do have success with my print business and my art business. I have systems for all that, where I buy my materials, where they're stored, but it is in the midst of a lot of chaos. But
the level of your success is at the level of your organization and systems.
Yeah.
And to do bigger and more stuff, you'll have to figure out how to create a way of managing more.
Yeah.
Almost before you get there, you have to create the space for it, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, which is especially.
It's like whenever I got a bigger van, my art got bigger. And I got a bigger studio, my art got bigger.
Yeah.
I put out more. It's just like you inhabit the space that you create.
Right.
And if you have a ton of structural space, but you have it full of stuff and you're crammed into a little tiny spot, you can make it'll work to the level that you have a space. But if you get rid of everything, you have a lot more space mentally and to move around and to create more stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not saying that you need to have like an empty room with white walls and stuff like that. I think it is good to have like you have a lot of creative things around you that keeps that keeps you in a state of mind that's creative.
Yeah.
I have my stuff lying around too, but I've noticed that like I look back at like when they almost happen simultaneously. You realize you want to do more. You need more. You have to kind of leap into this bigger space. You have to bite off more you can chew and figure out it. So like I had when I first got my studio outside of my living space, it was nerve wracking. I didn't think, and then eventually I realized like, oh, I can't afford it, because then I had the space to do more and I created more, and it paid. Like I started going from buying one booth at the festival to getting two booths. All of a sudden my expenses doubled, but then my sales doubled too, because I had space and attracted more attention. So you have to be willing to take these risks on yourself.
Yeah.
But you don't want to take you're not just like winging it, flinging it around. It's like you make calculated decisions. Sometimes they're going to work and sometimes they're not.
Yeah. I remember your old house that you used to work in, that your whole house was like an art studio.
Yeah.
You had like different rooms for different things. Like there's so much art jammed in there.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool little place.
Yeah.
And look at you now.
Look at me now. Now I have one big room jammed full of shit.
Well, I think that was good. I think that was good. Some good, interesting insight and advice for artists, young artists. Unless you have anything to add, I guess we can wrap it up and say goodbye.
I don't know what else to add.
Then you got nothing to add. That's fine. I don't have anything to add either.
I think the organizing part of it was the last little bit that I thought of. Like,
yeah. That's painful to hear too for someone like me who's not organized.
Well, the point is that you have this however organized you are, then you don't have to keep making the same decisions over and over.
Yeah, I feel like eventually too you keep running into the same wall when you're not organized, to the point where you stop and you go, okay, I have to organize this. And that's usually that's me. It's like I'll do it over and over and screw it up enough times to where I'm like, okay, I'm done. It's just like when my studio gets messy. It's like the difference between me and a hoarder is that there is a point where I have to stop and clean my room. Otherwise I would be a hoarder, and I have a closer edge to what a hoarder is than most normal people. I can tolerate huge messes, but I do have a breaking point where I can't. And so that's usually when I end up getting organized, when I hit this breaking point, when I'm
Yeah.
beating my head against the wall. So I can do it when I have to. I just don't want to.
I've
You
gotten
know?
to the point where I clean my entire palette off before I start working now. I have completely changed what I do.
What?
Yeah. Before I start a new session of painting, I clean off all the dry palette paint off my palette. Like I scrape it all off, and I
Mhm.
start with fresh, clean stuff, and it's more annoying because I spend more time doing a lot of
Yeah.
prep.
Feels good though to start like that.
Yeah, but yeah, it's organization and then being patient and not trying to rush through things all the time. That's for me. Like trying to get to the finish, get to the fun part. Like the more I take my time and do and follow the protocol and do the things in the right order and the right time, the better the results and the less time and materials and everything I waste.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the, and then I'm not to add, I'm going to add one thing to that. This is the problem with AI art, is that you don't have the time. You don't get the time because art, I'm talking about the artwork itself. Really good artwork takes time. Sometimes it happens quickly, but most of the time it's like you have to have time to sit with it and kind of absorb it and reflect back on, and then you kind of put it onto the canvas. You start thinking about it. It's like when you're rushing to get things done and you don't have time to really reflect on it, it's not good for the artwork in general, I think. And I think AI kind of takes that step away, and they say it's a benefit.
Well,
to do it fast.
AI takes the entire process. It just gives you a result.
Yeah.
And then you're the arbiter of like yay or nay on it.
True.
And it turns you more into an art director than into an artist.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, say goodbye to everybody, Gabe.
Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you, Gabe. I appreciate you coming on. It's always good to talk to you. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And goodbye, everybody. Don't hang up. Don't hang up.